Let's see here. All right, sitting here with Gabe. It's late night. My voice is going out here, and Gabe's got some questions, and let's nail these.
All right. So the other day I was thinking about what is it that makes you different? What separates you from a lot of other people? And I realized that New Year's is around, people make their resolutions or whatever. That you're good at picking something, and when you pick it, you're just laser focused, which again, a lot of people are able to do that. New Year's resolution, let's all go to the gym. Everyone picks in, they're laser focused for a little bit, and then they dissipate. And things knock them off their perch, right? Where you're able to stay with something for a long time. And I think that's a big part of it, right? Because, again, a lot of people, myself included, with my jiu-jitsu practice the last month, I let something upset me, and then I ended up taking weeks off because I was, pissed off at the gym. I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to go away. Where if something bothers you, you just kind of brush it off and keep moving forward. But again, just being able to consistently do that over months and months, right? And just as, speaking as far as what you've been doing the last few months for yourself, if you'd put that same time and energy into anything else that you decided you wanted to do, I'm sure you could have made, a multi-million-dollar company in that time if it was something you wanted to do, right?
Right.
So,
it's been super serious, yeah.
Right, but that's how you approach things when it's the thing for you to approach, right? And same thing with your health. It's you do it, you're laser focused, but you're able to keep that focus for a long time. And I was just wondering if you had anything to say about your mindset on that type of thing, and how you don't what keeps you from letting things knock you off track. Same thing. I'm gonna do this Ronin tour across the country, and it's just whatever comes. It's easy to let something. Oh, this happened. Never mind. Oh, that happened. We're not going there anymore.
Tons of stuff could have stopped it.
Right.
Tons.
Right. And
from the very first day.
Right. And you're kind of, you're the leader in that position. You tell the other guys, I don't know. And then they start going, I don't know. But, you're like, fuck it, but that fuck it is actually backed by this, drive in a singular direction, with, a certainty and, an unwavering kind of thing, something like that. So just want to see if you wanted to speak to that. And then I had some other things to go into that as well, but just to start off.
Right. I think too, with this kind of question, I got to think about where you're coming from when you say you don't do that. So I know more about what takes you off track, what, because I all have those same things, but then maybe it doesn't happen to me. So let's try to solve something here. Think about it. When you're just you're doing something and then something happens. What goes on in your mind that stops you from doing it? Come up with a real example, I was doing jiu-jitsu or whatever it is, and then this happened, and then this many days passed, and then I thought this. Kind of describe it if you could, so I can. What happened, and then how you reacted to it, because I think that might be where the gold is. Might be.
Well, it's for me. I'm using this as one example of many that have happened in my life. And I think it's probably true for a lot of other people as well. So that's kind of why I'm talking about it. In this, as I've gotten older and I've become kind of aware, it's, that time span has gotten less. Okay, now I've taken 3 weeks out of jiu-jitsu or whatever, as opposed to taking, I used to, if something pissed me off, I would take months off, where, I would be very diligent about a diet, and then something would F it up, and then I would go all the way back, for months. So I think a big part of it is just I'm doing something that's making me uncomfortable, and then something gives me a reason to go back to being comfortable.
Okay, you're doing something hard, and then you go back to taking whatever the normal, easier route is.
Right, yeah.
Right, because of a disruption.
Right.
Or what kind of disruption?
It could be anything. In some sense, it's an excuse to go back to things being easier, right? Right. It's here's a difficult pursuit, and then like at some, chug, and then at some point it's like, here's an out, right? Here's a reason I can bail off of this.
Yeah.
And
fuck, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know, because I've always been like this. So it's not like when I was younger or anything. This one, I kind of am this way. Like, I don't know what I think differently. I wonder sometimes myself, like, for example, like with yoga, for example, like I'm not naturally good at yoga. Like, I'm not naturally flexible. Like, I have no natural talent for yoga. The only thing that I would say that I'm better than the girls because a lot of girls do yoga, right? The ones that I'm definitely better than them is the strength exercises. So, when you're using you're like on your tippy toes and you're like crouching down and bouncing up, and that takes a lot of strength. Some of the standing exercises take a lot of strength, and I'm really bad at yoga, like naturally. Like I could not touch my toes for the longest time, right? And even now, like since the back injury, it came back. So it's a very relevant. I think yoga might be the most relevant example, just in the sense that, like sometimes, okay, for example, if you're good at something, then it's easy. You just do it naturally, right? But if you're not good at something, that's when really the question you're talking about is even more pertinent, right? Because there's no reward. There's no easy reward that comes. Like when I do yoga, like especially like when I started, like it took me 6 months before I saw any progress, like nothing. I didn't see any progress. Maybe Charlie saw some in me, but I didn't see it. I couldn't see anything. I don't know if he did or not. I'm just thinking that it's possible that he saw something, but id not, because I just wasn't flexible, and my mom's not flexible. So we're both of us are. But then why did I keep doing it? Because every day I went, I felt stupid. It hurt. Like it wasn't fun. And it was really extremely excruciating is the best word I can use. Like, I'm leaning forward and I'm trying to, and it's just like, and they're long. The thing about yoga is they're long poses. So it's not like you're just bending down and touch your toes. You're like bending down there and you're staying there. And it's just incredibly painful when you're not flexible to try to push that way, right? I don't know. I really don't know what I think that's different than other people, because I don't know what's in other people's minds. Sometimes I think I'm a glutton for punishment, because I just keep going, I don't know why. Like, I'm not really sure. I just have to kind of decide I'm going to do something, and then that's just like a given. So now that's just going to happen, right? I'm going to do that. And until I get a new vision, right? Something changes, right? So one of the things Time asked me actually yesterday, he said something, and I was saying like about something I was really disappointed in. Like a couple guys came to the summit once and didn't pay, right? And I'm a very mellow guy, so I didn't ask for the money, and I didn't know how to, you know what I mean? It just kind of happened, and they just didn't pay, right? And then Chime said, well, you got to get your money or whatever like that. And I was like, no. I said, that's actually not the problem. I said, the problem with me is that if I do something and it doesn't pay off, or if I feel like people took advantage of me, I lose interest in it and I don't do it again. So I think for myself, like, I really like when he asked me that, I thought to myself, that was it. Like my answer surprised me too. Cause I was like, and then Chime was like, I got it. Like, make sure you get paid, because you're going to lose interest. Cause that's how I am. I'll just switch. Once my mind switches, like if that happened, I wouldn't make any more Ronin videos. Like I'd be done. You know what I mean? Like once I felt like it wasn't working, or what people weren't appreciating it, or like that would be like, then there's no purpose, right? And that's the way my mind works. And that's why I've been able to do so many things too, is if I find something that I lose interest in. So when I'm interested in something, I'm really into it. And then when I lose interest in it, it's not because of what you're saying, like something gets in the way or I don't have motivation or something. It's more like suddenly I realize that there's no point, And when that happens, it's over. Like it doesn't come back. It's completely over. Whatever that was, whatever phase that was or job that was, project that was, So I think maybe I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. Why do I keep doing stuff like yoga where I was really bad at it? And then, but what happens is if you keep doing stuff that's excruciatingly difficult for a long enough period of time, you're going to have some pretty amazing progress eventually. It just happens, like eventually. And all of a sudden I find myself going, not from doing, I forgot the name of the pose is. I think it's a sun pose or whatever. You're up in the air and then I'm going over and I'm just barely going over. And then all of a sudden I find myself going like way over and I can feel like in my hips and stuff, I feel that it's like I'm finally doing the pose right. It's not just that I'm going down far. Like I actually feel it. Like the muscles are ripping and I can feel the motion and it just like feels perfect, right? So it really does pay off continuing, to do things. I don't know any other way to be than just to decide to do something and just to do it. I'll never eat unhealthy again. I'm just not going to do it. I mean, if I was on a business trip or if I was in a city where, I for some practical reason, there was no supermarket, you know what I mean? Then I would just eat whatever was there. I mean, I'm not saying, it's in what do you call it? It's actually difficult to answer questions or to describe for people so they really understand what I'm saying. Because the thing about me is I don't bullshit. So when I'm telling you something, it's actually real. So for example, I might be in a town, let's say I go to Philly and my friend Jason's there. Jason wanted to go to Philly Steak. We went to Philly Steak. He wanted to go to another one. And he's like, I want to take you to another one. And then we went to another place. He took me to another place, which was another Philly specialty, right? And then we ate that kind of stuff. And I was very happy, even though I would never eat that on my own. I was happy that he was excited. And so while I was with him for those days, I just, whatever he was up for, it didn't matter. But I remember the moment he left, because he went somewhere. I can't remember where he went. He went to Mexico, yeah. And when he took off, the moment he left, without even thinking about it, I told Ray, I said, let's go down. And then we walked down to Trader Joe's and just had a pile of vegetables. And I was so happy to eating a pile of vegetables again, So that's, I guess, I don't know how to do it. I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you this, is that if you can figure out how to do it somehow, the benefit is like this. You just get things that no one else can get. I know somebody in my family, very rich, right? But they can never get what I can get just from discipline. Because there's no way you can pay anybody to have discipline. It's one of these few skills that no matter how rich you are, in fact, I think of the wealthy people I know, it's the one thing they're jealous of me about, is of my discipline. Because they're like the more money you have, the less need you have to listen to people, the less discipline. What you're really talking about is discipline, I think. Yeah, it's discipline to continue on doing something. I'm going to keep thinking because I'm not done answering.
Right.
I don't even know if I have even near the answer yet.
Yeah, you actually said similar things to what I wrote down in my notes, because the last few days I just took off the last week of work and I just kind of stayed home and really did nothing. And I was actually pretty okay with it. I went out a couple times. I went to train one day, but I was pretty happy actually. And it's not like I wasn't even like playing video games or watching movies or anything. Just kind of like just doing nothing, and I was pretty content with it. And I was thinking like, society. I don't know if it's in my mind or society or my desire to do something, right? But I'm actually like, if I just chill out, I'm actually happy. So why should I be pursuing something else? But it's part of it's like, well, I should want better for myself. I should go do this, this, and this. But actually, I'm pretty content just doing nothing and sitting here and.
No, but you might be on the right track, because that's kind of the way I do it too. Like, if there's nothing I want to do, then I don't do anything. There's nothing I want to do. So, you know what I mean? Like, part of, I think for myself, the discipline is doing stuff. I decide to do something. So, like, a lot of people, like, for example, they're always kind of half-assed doing everything. So they're like, oh, I gotta eat this, I gotta do this, I gotta practice piano, and they have all these things that they don't really care about. So naturally, it's hard to get motivated because they're not serious about any of them, and they don't really they don't care. So they don't really care. So I think part of, being disciplined is the fact that you're doing stuff that you want to do. Like you're not wasting your energy on this other stuff. So sitting around is totally, in my book, that's totally cool. Because what'll happen is, if you can sit there peaceful enough, eventually, with this mindset, next time you do it with this mindset. Just say, when I want to do something, I'll do it.
Right.
And then you'll, after a while, there'll be a point where you'll be like, damn, I want to do something. And that's like, there you go. That's something real.
Yeah, that's, in some way that was kind of my suspicion, because, even after I've taken like long hiatuses from jiu-jitsu, and then eventually I'll just go back, right? If I really didn't want to do it, I wouldn't go back, which I see, because I've been doing it for 8 or 9 years now. So I see a lot of people that come in and they leave and they don't come back. And what you do see, some people are like me, who come in for a few months and go and come back. And I just, I grew up, whatever, kind of poor, whatever. But I remember seeing my dad on his days off, just like sitting on the couch, like drinking a beer and watching movies. And that was like how he spent his days. So I'm part of me wonders, okay, did I just pick up from my dad, like just do nothing? Is that like what... There's a lot of pressure from society as well, too. Like you said with the piano example, it's like a great example. Oh, I should do this. Oh, I should do that. Oh, I should be, whatever, 100 things that people, it's like, and I've had people comment and maybe say, I've had foreign friends say, oh, that's just an American thing. Maybe where it's like, you have to keep busy. You have to keep doing something. And like, if you don't, it's like kind of a guilt, or maybe it's a New York thing. But yeah, it was kind of yesterday, I think it hit me, because the first couple days I was off, I did feel a little guilty because I knew I was taking some days off. So maybe I should do this, I should do that, I should, but essentially I cleaned my apartment and I was like, I'm pretty good now. I'm just hang out, And part of me is like, should I feel guilty? And part of me is like, your brain is saying you should feel guilty, but also if I just like sit still, I know it's like, hey, I'm pretty happy actually doing totally nothing. So yeah, that's
right. Well, yeah, I'll tell you something. It's very cheap to do nothing, and not spending money allows you to either invest the money you have, right, which is very beneficial, right, or allows you not to work very much, right? So both things benefit you, right? So I think this keeping busy bullshit is not just playing the piano and everything. It's also, we got to go to this restaurant. We got to get it. We can't just go to the fruit shop here. We got to go to the one way over there, right? Because that's this and that, blah. And so that sense. I think when I walk around at night, like when I walk around, basically don't spend any money. I'll like walk out if I'm a little bit hungry. Like last night, I was a little bit hungry. So I went down and bought a little box of raw cashews and then a green apple. And then I just ate that and walked. And I walked and walked and walked. And as I walk by, I see a lot of people doing things, right? But I see a lot of people who are just kind of doing stuff that they're not that happy doing. You can just see it on their faces, right? Sitting in these restaurants, it's freezing cold because there's no indoor seating. And there'll be people getting drunk. They look the happiest, with beers and stuff. They're just sitting there. It's freezing cold. They're bundled up, right? But they're it's like, I wonder if they're even living their life, like a lot of them, because they're just talking to people like they probably don't want to talk to, because you can hear the conversation, right? It's not that interesting, right. So they're eating food they might not want to eat. They're sitting down for long periods of time.
Spending money they may not have.
Right. Spending money and talking to people and, a lot of rigmarole to get there, parking in New York, right? And all this, you see them paying the parking meters and nervously coming out with more coins or whatever it is, paying again, It's like there's this constant nervousness and just running around activity. But I think one of my realizations is that I realized I didn't have to do anything. And you would think, okay, I think people are kind of scared of doing that. They're terrified that what's going to happen to them if they don't do anything. So I remember I was sitting in front of a store, right? And I had a pile of vegetables I bought inside the store, and I was just eating them. And then some girls came by, and they said, like they were like laughing because I'm just like eating this huge piece of, I don't know what it was. And then they're like, is that good? Can you eat that raw? They started asking me questions, and I was like chatting and stuff, and like they were super friendly, and they gave me their numbers and stuff, and it was like very interesting for me because here I am of like not trying to do anything, like everybody else is in restaurants. I'm like literally sitting on the ground in front of a store because there's no bench. I'm sitting there, but I'm eating these pile of vegetables, right? And I'm totally happy. Like I'm very comfortable doing what I'm doing. And other people can sense it. Because often when I'm sitting there, girls will talk to me when I'm sitting there eating vegetables. And it's the funniest thing. I noticed that it really is it's really a thing. I'll just be sitting there and like, maybe it's because I'm so far outside of what everybody else is doing. And they sense that I'm very comfortable. Like I don't feel like bad about myself for sitting there eating, because I'm actually doing what I want because I'm getting my nuts, I'm getting my vegetables, I'm getting, my oils, everything I want. I'm totally happy, completely happy, right? I'm not missing anything. I don't care what they think. It just doesn't matter. And conversely, what happens is it's attractive to people. And people, I think so few people live like comfortable lives doing what they want to do that they know when you're doing it, and they're like, whoa, and but they think they don't have the, I guess, confidence to live the way they want to live. It sounds strange, but it's true.
Right. No, I understand because this is, I did have a little bit of an existential crisis the last day, realizing like, hey, I'm doing actually something that I'm actually, taking a second to realize I'm happy right now because my brain is trying to think of things I should be doing, right, to fill this void. And then I came to this realization like, oh, actually, you know what? I'm happy right now. Just fucking chill out, because I'm enjoying it. But part of it, or part of my fear associated with that is, am I just being lazy, right? Because, I live pretty comfortably. I work 3 days a week. I make six figures. I live a very comfortable, simple life. If I could make more money and work less, I would. And I would, when you say do what you want, I would do probably nothing for a long time. But there's like a guilt or a shame attached to that you should do these things. Then there's the other end of, well, okay, well, what do I want for my future? And it's like, well, if I want other things, I actually have to be more proactive toward that and kind of deciding what those things are going to be also. So that adds another layer to it. If that's, specifically, okay, well, what if I want to have a wife and kids? Well, I could do what I'm doing now, but it wouldn't be like super comfortable. It'd be okay, I guess, right? So just things that I'm putting out there. I don't know if that's...
You're talking about saving money. I think saving money in investments...
I am saving money. It's not like I have investments. I am saving money, but it's also like, at what point do I, where I am is good, but like if I want to be like opulent or something like that, I have to leave this bubble of like, hey, I'm pretty happy to enter this realm of, outside my comfort zone, so a realm of being uncomfortable to pursue something. But I think that's, so it's the two wires a little crossed.
Not really. I mean, if you learn to invest, you don't need an exciting life to get rich. It's just a matter of taking a certain percentage out of your income and putting it into investments every month, just without thinking about it, just like constantly. That's why the two books that I always recommend is The Wealthy Barber and The Richest Man in Babylon. Those two books, just read them over and over and over and over and over. And those two books, if you follow them, you will get rich. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's so simple. Those two books, especially The Wealthy Barber, for today's. I think The Richest Man in Babylon is good because it's more of a general concept. It's an older concept. I think it was written in the 30s or something. But it's like written as if it was back in the Greek, back in the I don't know what period, but a long time ago, right? And then The Wealthy Barber is more modern. It's probably 90s or whatever, but it's still modern, right? But they've been invested in mutual funds and, it talks about that. Dollar cost averaging and that kind of thing. Those two books changed my life when I was like 26. Because all of a sudden I realized that you don't need a lot of money to get rich. You just have to invest it. Now, my own journey, I'm not going to talk about that in this one because it'll take you off the track of what I'm telling you for this one. But those two books will put you on the road to financial freedom. And they're not exciting and they don't require a lot of discipline. It's just a matter of doing exactly what they say. It's like every month, without thinking, putting it in. Every month, every month. Where it's just like totally normal to you. It's like, every month, put it in there,
So there was something I heard a few months ago that stuck with me, maybe about a year ago, where someone said something to the effect of everything we do, especially younger people, is in some way geared towards like increasing our chances of mating or like, our haircuts or what we eat and whatever. People want to increase their chance to mate.
Reproduction.
Right. And so that's part of the struggle also is like, well, maybe if I'm better at playing guitar or if I'm better at this or that, then I'll have a more likelihood to reproduce where, that adds to the shame of, or adds to the anxiety, I would say, of sitting and doing nothing and just being content, right?
Right. I guess the thing is like that with women obviously are all very different, right? There's no one woman, right? But a man who is very comfortable with himself, who knows who he is, who's doing what he wants, is very attractive to a certain percentage of women. So you will be attractive to some women. And you won't be attracted to others. And that's part of accepting, being a man, is that you're not attractive to some people. Like some women just are not going to like you. Like there's just, no matter what you do, you could buy them Lamborghinis. Like they just don't like you. You know what I mean? There's just it's just the way it is. And I think part of us, as humans, we want everybody to like us. And like somehow money's going to do that. Because you see rich guys, old guys with money, and then you see them with younger women, and your brain is like, oh, they're winning or whatever. But the reality of their life in reality is that they're not winning at all. It's incredibly sad, actually. Those guys, the inside of their mind, they're just being used, and they know it. There's nothing good about it. But I know for myself, the more myself I am, I would say the more women I have or interested in me. You know what I mean? Like there is just something very good about knowing who you are and being comfortable with that. There's something very good about it. And also too, is that you get to the point where you don't care either. Like you don't care if women like you. So you might be more attractive because you know who you are and you're living the way you want. But you don't care. Like there's a point where you just, like you really truly don't care. You're just completely comfortable with yourself, right? I mean, of course, once in a while you got to get laid. That's important, once in a while. But like overall, you know what I mean? Like as a general rule.
Yeah, this is something, I don't know if I've said it on the channel before, but I've told you before that I used to be friends with a girl that her father was a billionaire, right? So everyone would kowtow to her, and she was like always surrounded by like fake friends. And I was always real with her. So she had like a love-hate relationship with me because I was like one of the few people that would be real with her, which she appreciated, but also she hated someone like telling her that her shit stinks, So it comes down to like, well, money gives the perception that the person's valued more in society, right? So it's like all these little pursuits that people do, a lot of it's an attempt to be more valuable to society. Okay, you make a YouTube channel and you have 100,000 followers and you tell people at a party and now everyone's like, oh, you heard this guy's got 100,000 followers. It makes the perceived idea of value, whether or not that, that guy could just make YouTube videos of, farts or something. It's not actually a value, but it's like a perceived social value or something. So that's kind of like people are scratching and clawing and, just any way they could find a way to grab onto this like social currency or something to try to feel like they're important or seen or something like that.
It's the same with the guys with the YouTube channels. I mean, the guys I know with YouTube channels, a lot of them are basically fake. Like their channel's not them, and they have a lot of followers, but almost like the more followers they get, the more they realize it's fake, and they got to put on a certain personality to be the way that people want them to be, right? So it's the same trap, whatever you have. It's the same trap, You can be successful with stuff like that on the outside, but the problem with being honest with yourself is you won't be happy with it because you'll know it's full of shit, right? Whereas some other guy, he might actually believe it. The guy might be so stupid, he might actually believe that he's actually living the life he wants to live, right? Until he has a, car accident and realizes it's all bullshit. But you know what I mean? Something happens, But there's questionable value in being successful. In fact, I would say it's a negative almost if you're not doing what you want to do because you're just digging yourself farther and farther hole. And that's why people commit suicide when they're really successful because they realize they get more and more successful doing what they don't like doing and being a fake person. Then they finally realize this is it. This is all that happens. Now you have a bunch of you're acting fake and everybody around you likes you because they think you're someone you're not. So it looks good from the outside. It just depends on how good a life you really want to live, Because if you really want to live a comfortable life, you got to kind of like face up to all this stuff. And then, just kind of let these other people do their thing. And it's almost like a TV show. You'll see them go up and then they'll crash because it's fake, right? And then, or maybe they'll just keep going up. Maybe they'll get bought out by a TV show, whatever. They could keep succeeding, and you might even have pangs of jealousy at times. This is all normal, Feelings are normal, right? So if you're being yourself and you're not getting on the outside maybe the success you would have if you were totally fake, there'll be moments where you'll be tiny bit jealous, but in the end, you'll realize that you're happy. It's like you walk outside. You got your dog. You're walking outside. It's a beautiful day, and you realize I'm happy. Like I'm totally happy where I am. And I know for myself. When I was younger, I used to always want to be somewhere else with different people. Like I always felt like where I was, the people I was with were not the best. But there was this other place over there where, Rio de Janeiro, whatever, that's the carnival, where it's fucking cool people, fucking hot chicks, like these guys, they you know what I mean? They're fun to be with, there's a good place over there, But then after I've been to like a lot of countries, I realized that, I've already been there to all these places. I've been to a lot of places. So I know what it's like to be there. And I realized that in the end, you're just where you are and it's okay. Like those other places, they all have their drawbacks, just like this place does. Every place does, There's no, you know what I mean? Like it's an easy thing to believe, actually, without analyzing it. Just kind of like the people around me suck.
Yeah, we could be in a beach in Maui right now.
Yeah. I've been to a beach in Maui. Yeah. I've been to my friend Bruce's house. Stayed there for like 3 weeks. Went all over the place. And the beaches were good. We went to see a waterfall next to the road there. If you go up in the mountains. We went over where Jaws is. It wasn't breaking, but we checked out everything. And then we went to... my friend rented Lady Gaga's house for his wedding, so we stayed there for like 5 days. That was pretty cool. I got to say, that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was a bitchin' place to be. Yeah. But
those are like short-term type of like flashes, as opposed to like staying somewhere.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was just something that happened, But I've spent. I remember like when I went to Indonesia in my early 20s, like I remember being in Sumatra. And I got to tell you, like Sumatra, those days in Sumatra are way more memorable. They're so vivid in my mind. So wonderful. Like just everything, So even this beautiful house in Maui was good, but it wasn't as good. It wasn't as good as a backpacker place in 1990. In Sumatra. That was fucking insane,
So I think, a couple of things. One, I'm just curious to, what you think as far as the difference between like being content versus like being happy, or the pursuit of contentment versus being happy, right? Like, is content like a default and happy is just like a fleeting thing, or is happiness something we should be pursuing? Yeah.
I mean, life's struggle, right? The Hinduism, right, is life is suffering, right? So, the cycle, So life is difficult, right? So contentment doesn't mean what people probably think it means. It's just like accepting that life is good and that there is nothing, there's really no other life you want to live. Or you're going to go do it, right? You make some changes, right? Like when I moved to Thailand, like all of a sudden I realized I wanted to be somewhere else. I'm not saying be comfortable where you are. I'm saying you get the bug, you got to go do it, right? It's a balance, but I would say that contentment would be bursts of contentment in the middle of hard work. Like I do yoga, and then there's a couple poses where I feel some contentment in the middle, and then at the end I feel very much contentment. But it's mostly hard work, right?
So this is a little bit, I guess kind of a takeaway for this would be, if we were to slow down enough and get rid of all the fake pretending of, oh, I gotta get better at guitar, or filling your time with like playing a lot of video games. I'm not saying don't play video games. I'm saying like if you're still eventually an actual desire will emerge, and you have to be open to that desire also, right? Like you can't be like, nah, that's fucking stupid, right? Like a desire to, you may be like, oh, actually I want to like juggle or paint shells or something, and you have to be like open enough to be like, yeah, okay, let's do that, to pursue it, as opposed to it a naturally springing up desire to do something will come from stillness. But like if you keep putting all these other things, oh, I have to read this other book, I have to do this other thing, I have to talk to that person, then it's you're crowding your own mind with a lot of interference and not letting the actual thing kind of sprout up, if that makes sense.
I lost you a little bit, but I the discussion anyway has been good. I got a little bit lost that one, but you're never going to, I guess, master life. Like, life is difficult. Look at all these smart people that went before us. Plato, these guys. Like, these guys were super smart. And they never, some of them even had tragic endings, right? So, some of these, Aristotle, some of these guys, they had tragic endings, right? Even though they left some of the greatest ideas, right? So I think letting go of the fact that you're going to live a perfect life, because if you read a lot of autobiographies, you realize a lot of people that we think were really happy, then you see what happened at the end of their life was actually really rough, right? And then just accepting that you're just a man in the world, right? And you don't know what's going to happen, right? And just being kind of happy and comfortable. Like I was talking to Chime the other day, and like I was saying something. I was saying like I got a lot of friends who they really focused on money all the time, and they made a bunch of money. Like they started companies and they made tons of money, and then they died before they were 55, right?
Or get addicted to drugs.
Yeah, they died. Like they're not here. People I knew. And so, I was going to say if there's one thing that I would say is the closest thing to a perfect thing to do is to take perfect care of your body. Like that is the one thing that you're always going to have. Like no matter what, the body's going to be there. And if the body's not up for shit, if you're not, you know what I mean? Like all the other stuff, money and stuff, it's all so outside of you, right? It's not even part of you. Like, when you take a shower or whatever, it's not there. There's no money. It's like, it's not part of, and then the money is like just something we made up, right? Whereas your body, we've had bodies since, 200,000 years, right? Human bodies, right? That's always with you. That's the thing. That's the most real thing that you have. A lot of other stuff is not even real, Money is a game. I mean, I think money is a good game. I think that making a lot of money is a very good enterprise for men. This is a totally awesome thing to do. But at the same time, you have to also understand it's just one of these things outside you that we made up. It's not really part of you, right? It's not the real you. It's not your spirit. There is no spirit. There's no soul, right? We are a biological creature. And you want that biological creature like a car. You want it running on all cylinders. You want it tuned up. And then that will give you, if you ever wonder, like, not having faith in yourself in the future, if you keep your body working right, that means your mind, because your mind is your body, part of your body. It's not separate, right? That's what I mean, the body, it's the mind. And if you keep your body working well, you will succeed, because you have a good, most people don't. And they're kind of succeeding. So you have the massive advantage, right? Just because your engine is running, your body's running. You're doing what you want to do. It might not look what other people want to do, but for yourself, it's what you want to do, right? And so I would say, like, if there's going to be one thing to fall back on, is the one thing that you do. The one thing that's real is your body. I would say get ripped, get in great shape, get flexible, get good instincts, because that's what happens when you keep your body fresh. Your mind works faster, you move faster. Like, my instincts are fast, but it's only because I keep my body in shape. And I think that if you want one thing to hang your hat on, is kind of everything's fake except your body. Like, even my body's fake to you, because you have only your body. So wherever you go, you got Gabe with you, right? So that would be the thing I would say. You really want to give the best fuel to your body and good sleep, and keep your mind peaceful, and then study, because that's all part of your body. Your what you study and stuff. And then you can't help one but be somewhat at peace, right? Because you're doing the right thing, right? Because some deep part of you knows you're doing the right thing. Some part of you, like, knows that money means nothing. Like, there's some part of people, like, they see a guy with a fancy car, they realize it really doesn't mean that much. If you look at him and he's all diabetes and he's ready to go down in flames, it just doesn't have any meaning, So at the same time as I love the game of life, so there's nothing wrong with understanding one deep truth and then also playing a game. That's totally cool too. If you say, well, how many houses can I buy? Right? Or whatever it is, nothing wrong with that. That's a fun game, I'm not into that right now, but I have been before. And that's fun, That's totally cool. It's not contradictory.
Yeah. So I just want to go back to one thing. That was very good, though. That's very prescient. We could end it there if you want, or well, the one thing I was gonna just rewind a little bit is where you mentioned, okay, reading other guys' biographies, right? The biographies of other, we'll just say, successful people. And I think that's also another, like, point of pain or shame, is like comparing your life. Okay, I do plumbing work, right? I'm not a great philosopher. I'm not a great painter or writer or businessman. I just do plumbing work. And
but do you read autobiographies?
Yeah, some. It's not my go-to genre, but some, yeah.
No, but when you read autobiographies, you realize that a lot of these guys lived very, difficult lives, and they just had one success, sometimes after they're dead. Like, they wrote a book. They always had a miserable life, and they wrote a book, and the book became famous. And so we assume they had a good life, but actually it wasn't published till after they were dead. So if you read biographies, like, really read them, not compare, but just really read them, you'll realize that a lot of these guys, like, it's not the way you think.
But, my point being is like how does, we'll say, a man stop feeling maybe insignificant comparing himself to, okay, I read the biography of Benjamin Franklin. It's a great book. It's inspirational. But at some point also I feel a little shitty because I'm like, damn, this guy did so much and I'm doing nothing compared to what he did, right?
Well, the way you can look at it, what I would say is the best way to look at that is you got to realize that most people are so insecure that they can't even, contemplate people doing greater things than them, right? So if you can accept that Benjamin Franklin was much more successful than you, then you've done it. You've done the most difficult thing. Because the way you get wisdom is by seeing life the way it is, right? So when you realize other people are more successful and you can accept that, you've done the impossible. Like, you've set yourself up to do something great because you're able to appreciate other people's accomplishments, and appreciate that Benjamin Franklin was, a Renaissance man, could do so many things, right? And by appreciating that very act of appreciating shows only a confident man can do that. Because a guy who's not confident, he can never compliment another man. Because he always feels like it takes him down, right? But when you can say, wow, that guy was awesome, that will put you one step closer to being able to be honest with yourself and to be able to see life more clearly. Like the essence of personality disorders is that you don't see things the way they are. So there was this guy, and I forget the guy's name, but he is a famous psychologist, and a guy came to him, a client, and he said, he told him he was a real prick, like the client was a real prick. But then he told him some stories, and it was so sad that the psychologist got, teared up. And then the guy said, you're looking down on me, you're fucking this, and then left. The guy could not see that even though he was a total prick, the psychologist realized the reason why he was. Because he had been abused in very badly. So that his disorder was that he could not see things the way they were. That psychologist was empathizing with him. But he couldn't see that. So when you can see other people, like if you can see Benjamin Franklin being more successful than you, and just say, yes, some men are more successful than me. Just something that simple is a beautiful place to start because it's true. Some people are extremely successful, right? And when you can say that, it will give you a freedom to say, Elon Musk is more successful than me, and he's done this. And everybody will laugh around you because they'll be like, yeah, of course. But it's different when you say it. It's totally different when you say it about yourself than when you say it about another person, right? He's not as successful, But when you say it about yourself, that's when you start to... I think this is the essence of kind of... Well, for example, how to be a good parent is that you can see what your child needs. And your child might have more talent than you. And a lot of parents can't stand that. They keep their children down because they can't have their children outdoing them. Very common thing. Very common. So when you accept other people who are greater than you or more successful, this will allow you to have much better human relations with other people, because you'll start to be more honest with yourself, and you'll see dishonesty in people much easier after that, because it's like a breakthrough, where you can kind of like say, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not putting myself down by saying that. It's actually true. They are more successful than me. And what you're not saying is what a lot of people have, a second inner voice that says, well, if they're more successful, then I'm shit. That is not true. That's not what I'm talking about. That's a shame based on something that happened in the past. What I'm just talking about is just saying the obvious, which is the truth, that people have varying degrees of success in business, in love, friendship, sports, whatever it is. And by just accepting that, and then if you feel that sense that means you're no good, then you have to like recognize that that's like, basically, it's not a feeling. So a feeling is your friend fucks you over, you feel sad, right? But a feeling that you're a piece of shit, that's not a feeling. That's not a feeling. There's no feeling in the book. If you read any kind of feelings, list of feelings, being a piece of shit's not a feeling, right?
Right.
That's a kind of shame based on some dysfunctional behavior from somebody in the past. So that's probably what you're actually not trying to avoid, is that inner voice. But once you see other people and you can appreciate them, and you realize that there's an inner voice that's saying something totally different to you, which is stopping you from being able to appreciate your friends, appreciate other people, see other people, really see them for what they are. Then you can work on that, that. Because usually it's a result of some kind of bad thing, abuse or something, right? So it's not like something you did. You don't become a piece of shit in your own mind because it's something you did. It's not a normal thing to think. Someone to think they're a piece of shit. It's not normal. It's not at all normal. It's going to be a result of some trauma, basically. So even just hearing this, you probably know the answer, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll leave that for a separate.
Yeah.
We'll leave that for offline. But I think there's been a good talk.